Welcome. This is the 40th edition, can you believe it, of the Wise Mind Fireside Chats, the Wi-Fi chats. Erika and Julien Reiss, Gabby Sheshlock, and we are joined by Mr. C himself, the big C, Brett Corcoran. Welcome. And we decided, as this one is going to drop on April Fool's Day, to have a conversation about that kind of stuff, the way our conversations go far and wide. So, discernment, gullibility, where do we trust our sources of information? Do you want to tell us about a funny April Fool's that you once heard? And do people stick to, if they haven't played their joke by noon, then the joke is on them? What have you got for our lovely listeners?
I'm going to start with that whole, what you just said. I've never heard that before because over here in this part of the world, it's an all day affair. You have from the second you wake up until the clock strikes midnight the next day to do that. So I go through the whole day. Nope, I am not listening or following or doing anything anybody tells me that day for my own safety. I don't trust anything. Let's just put it this way. I distrust at next level, right? I take my normal distrust and it rises a couple levels too on that day. I don't know. I just don't. It's a hard rule.
Sounded like a truth blast there.
I'm just wondering, Brett, what's it like to live with such a distrustful entity for an entire day?
Yep, doesn't matter what it is. She's not going to buy it, but it's all good.
Have you ever, and I'm addressing this to you, Brett, have you ever played a fantastic practical joke on Erika or anybody else you might want to share with us?
Nothing's popping into my head for an April Fool's Day thing, but I generally do it whenever it comes to mind. It doesn't have to be April 1st. So I just like joking around and having fun. And so, yeah.
The same. And actually, I have a really big advantage because I'm originally from Germany. And as we all know, Germans aren't funny, they have no sense of humor, right? Everybody knows that. So it was really helpful for me, even when I moved to Ireland, because people wouldn't even think about that I could not be serious, which led to really wonderful situations. I'll give you an example because it's April Fool's Day. I was very young and I met this guy and he invited me over. His mom, he still lived with his mom, right, in his early 20s. And we talked in Catholic Ireland. So there was no girls allowed in the house, right? But his mom had gone on holidays. So I stayed over in his house. And his brother had a bit of a crisis and he had to go out to meet him to have a brotherly talk. And he said to me, Gabby, whatever you do, do not answer the phone. It's a while ago. It was before mobiles. There was only landlines. So he said, do not answer the phone because my mom is probably ringing to see everything is okay. So I'm sitting there. I'm going to make myself a tea and sit there, have my tea when he comes home. And he looks at me and he says, Gabby, who gave you permission to make tea? So very serious. I said, look, the phone rang. I answered it. Your mom was on the phone and I asked her and she said it was okay. And he literally went white. You could see the panic coming up because and then his brother appeared in the back and he looked at me and started laughing because he copped on, right? But the man was in a panic. So it's brilliant to be German because we don't do things like that. We're too serious.
A few years ago, I was in the ambulance service and we had to go up to our control room. I won't say what ambulance service. I don't want anybody, taxpayers, writing in about misuse of their money. But we popped up for a legitimate reason. And famously, the ambulance station I worked in was reputed to be haunted. We won't go into that conversation. But we're there when the control room phone rings and the crew that are supposed to be sitting in the station waiting to be called out say, look, there's all sorts of weird stuff going on here. We are not staying in the ambulance station. So you're going to be out somewhere around the town. So being the mature and wise men and women we were of the ambulance service, we said, this is ideal for a wind up. Give us 5 or 10 minutes. We will go to the cemetery, the graveyard in this town we were working in, and you send that crew to a spurious report in the cemetery. So my crewmate and I descend on the cemetery, and we find this great big angel gravestone. I get myself huddled up under a coat, and I'm like laying there being this destitute person. And control room, sure enough, have sent this other crew to report of a unconscious male in the graveyard. So they arrive, and as they're coming up, and like, can you hear me? And doing all their thing. Let me just say for the record, they did a very good job. They were very professional up until the point where up comes the coat, the unconscious male, and then over the top of the spread wings of the angel comes this sort of maniacal laugh. And these guys took off. They out of that. One of them actually cleared the wall. The walls are quite tall, to keep all the dead things in. Cleared the wall, and they've been doing a commentary the whole time on the phone because they still had the EBGBs from the haunted ambulance station. So this is all on a recorded line. So it did not take very long for this recording to start circulating around the entire ambulance service. It had werewolf noises in it and creepy sounds. If anybody is listening, they've got a copy of that, I would love to have a copy. Please send it to me. And I take zero account of the fact that that was some good, honestly earned taxpayers' money, because sometimes you just need to have a laugh.
Which
If that was me,
Sorry. No, I was just saying that it probably brings us to the topic of today. How important is it to have a laugh? Except of Erika, who probably just tried to say I would have been running.
what? No, I think there would have been a real live call, an ambulance needed. If that was me, I would have, like, don't know, drop kick somebody. Something would not have been good in that whole scene. But to your topic and your point, Gabby, about how important is it to laugh? This goes back a few episodes that we just talked about, that balance, right? Like the state of balance, that if you're not laughing at least once a day, you're probably heavy on one side more than the other. So laughter is medicine, isn't it?
Yeah, and I want to jump on that, say that being able to laugh, it's also like an awareness of the situation and acceptance that it can be funny and it's not always bad. And talking about the 1st of April, the same of the tradition of the fish. Do you know this one? Like when you stick a fish in the back of someone to make a laugh, just to laugh at them. No, we have this in France. We used to do that. We don't do that anymore a lot, but we used to have like 1st April fish. It's like something like kids like to do on a paper stuff, and you stick it on the back of someone that don't know it. And so wherever you're going, you have a fish stick in your back. And that's, people are laughing at you and you don't know why. So yeah, the good idea. And that brings also to awareness. Sometimes we have stuck stick to us and we're just not aware of it. And we need someone to tell us you have something stick in your back or you have something stuck in your forehead, because we're not able to see it ourselves.
That's funny. We don't have like fish, but sometimes people will come up to your back, which is why I don't let anybody behind me either on April Fool's Day, because they will slap your back and say, "How you doing?" and stick a kick me sign on your back. That's what they do here. Kick me. So you're walking around with this sign on the back of you that people just, it's a mental note. Nobody behind me, and don't believe anything you're here on April Fool's.
Really is the best medicine. If anybody's ever tried it, you're like laughing meditation, where we all would start to laugh, and it can just get completely crazy. I worked at an outdoor centre, and we used to get the kids to lay down, and one would have their head on the belly of the one in front, and they'd sort of zigzag along, and the first one would just go ha, and the second one would go ha ha. By the time you got to the third one, they would actually start to laugh. So then your head's bouncing up and down on this person's belly because they're laughing. Everybody's laughing harder and harder. And we would actually literally have to go and sort of like them and detach them from the person that they're resting their head on, because otherwise they just wouldn't stop. But We talked in an earlier conversation about the hormones, but there's such a rush of healing hormones in our bodies when we do something like that. Laughter between strangers, but laughing, real proper belly laughing with your friends is one of the most joyous things you can ever experience. Erika, what are you laughing at?
I'm
Even with
literally cracking up.
I was thinking it's even funny with strangers. Like you have a laugh with stranger when you just met someone and you just laugh at something. It's really nice to build connection and yeah, having a belonging feelings and all that stuff.
Exactly. If you laugh with a complete stranger, in terms of bonding, because it's an absolute trust thing, you would not enjoy that experience of laughing with someone that there was any kind of issue with. And I don't know if you've ever been to Gabby, you can speak to this. You go and see a comedian and you go to the bar afterwards and you will be talking to complete strangers about the funny thing, reliving it, telling these are people you've never met before, but you might have just spent 90 minutes absolutely fighting for breath. For those that aren't aware, Gabby, despite her Germanness, was in fact a stand-up comedian. And you ran a comedy club for a long time, didn't you?
Yeah, I ran a comedy club with friends in Dublin for about, over 15 years. And we had at one stage 4 different venues, 6 shows a week. So it was fun. And it's true. Why do people go to even comedy clubs? Right? It's a relief. And laughing is so important. I talked about all the endorphins and all the good hormones who come up, which are healing. Most funny joke is that scientists discovered that laughing is as healthy as running, and now I'm sitting on the bench laughing at all the joggers. But it's true; it's really healthy.
You know what my favorite thing is I'm laughing hysterically over here right now, actually, as we're having this conversation about laughter. Because, well, laughter is contagious, first of all, right? Like, I find great. And this is really interesting to me that this just dawned on me because I'm always saying, I don't know what I find joy in. Like it's dawning on me that I get great pleasure out of watching other people laugh because it's contagious. And it's like, then I can't help but laugh to laugh. So the other night, Brett and I were on the couch. I'm going to crack up just even saying this story, looking at videos, looking at videos like Facebook with people where they do this filter challenge, right? Where they'll like water in their mouth and they turn and the cracking up because he remembers now. The filter makes their face do whatever, and the people get the water out like challenge to try to keep the water in your. Some of these people, like the water's coming out of their nose and the faces. We were laughing so hard. I actually got a workout because my stomach was killing me. I'm like, this is like I just did like a bunch of abs right now because I laughed so hard. It's so cleansing. You get your heart rate up, like just like best feeling to have a good laugh like that. And I'm looking to laugh any moment I can get. So I feel like the big point for me is don't take yourself so seriously. Like, up, man, you're not that important. Like, you can laugh at yourself. It's really important to be able to find humor in even the smallest little thing. For me, that's important. And when I have a memory, I can keep reliving it. So I can picture Brett and I on the couch and I can laugh at the drop of a dime right now, just remembering what that was like. Very funny.
And I think that is a truth that we remember things that we really laughed at. And Einstein, I'm pretty sure it was Einstein, said, don't trust anybody that can't laugh at themselves because it shows an immense lack of self-awareness. And I think it's a great, well, apart from the fact that it's an Einstein quote, who doesn't love to be able to drop an Einstein quote into a conversation? But it is so true. I remember once, young kid, and we hadn't had a TV for very long, and he was an Australian guy, but he presented in the UK called Clive James, and he particularly liked, and this was in the days before YouTube, and I've just realised it was someone commenting on some stuff that other people were doing and us laughing at it. So YouTube, you were 40 years behind. But he particularly loved these Japanese shows where they did weird things. And this one particular thing they do. It was called endurance, and these guys and girls are all sort of like onto these bamboo canes, and at the other end, about 100 meters down, they're getting elastic tightened and tightened, tightened that's around their ankles, and all they've got is their grip on this bamboo. And when they get pulled, they go rocketing down this slope over all this sort of lumpy stuff. So they're out of breath and then their faces hit brown paper bags of pepper. I kid you not. And I remember this so vividly because these Japanese people, this is not the cultural expectation I have. And they're rocketing down this, they've got blood pouring from their backs, and they go bang, and there's pepper everywhere, and they're streaming with. I don't know how people didn't die. Maybe people did die, but it was bloody funny. And like on the floor laughing with your family, but that as a memory really gives me pleasure, like you say, to relive it and to revisit it.
Yeah, it's great. There's just certain people have like laughs that you're just gonna laugh at. I know people that have like a tea kettle laugh goes on, and then I saw a show on TV or on YouTube. I think it was about a show of people with like laughs, and they say something. One person starts laughing. You're like, "What is that? A laugh?" And all of a sudden, the next person starts laughing at that person, and their laugh is even worse than the other one. And you're like, "What the heck?" And you start laughing at them laughing. I don't know what game show it was or where, but it was hilarious just listening to just people laughing. And I don't know what the difference is between a giggle and a laugh, but that came up in a conversation. And I hope that I hold on to my laughing way long and my giggling at whatever it is, because there's something beautiful about it. And just, I don't know, I think it's tied to life energy or something. Not taking yourself too serious and being able to just have fun, lighten up, and not be so serious here and there.
Like that, right? Have you ever thought about how you can diffuse a situation you might get angry or frustrated about if you can see the humor in it? I actually had an example today. My neighbor has a puppy, and it's a Bichon Frise, and she spent 60 quid this week having him groomed, right? Washed and a lovely haircut. And then I bring the pooch out for a play, right? And the next thing he disappears, and I go, where is he? And he comes back, like both sides his face, because he had rubbed himself in fox poo, which also stinks like sweet fish. And the dog was literally black all over with this fox poo. And my first reaction was, oh God, I'm short of time. I was coming here, and I have to show the dog. But my neighbor who was out with his dog, he started laughing, looking at the dog. And he had such a hearty laugh because it was actually hilarious that I started laughing. And because we laughed so hard, I actually went inside with the dog and going to my, what the dog did. I gave him a shower and it was all fine and light and quiet. But without us having a good laugh, I probably would be, now I have to shower the dog. You know what I mean?
You raised an interesting point for me there about like energy, and you suggest to people to take a deep breath into their abdomens, and fundamentally that's what we're doing, isn't it? With laughter, we start to breathe deeper, we breathe right into our bellies, hence like laughing. And in a lot of cultures and spiritual beliefs, this is where the soul sits. And I think giving your soul a bit of a spin cycle with some laughter must be a powerful tool.
What about the laugh that comes after a fit of hysterical crying? That's my favorite laugh of all. Talk about cleansing from top to bottom. It's like you're crying and then you're instantly just in a fit of laughter at the fact that you can't stop crying. It's just happening here. I'm in a complete, like, giving up all. I surrender to whatever emotion needs to exist right now. And when that whole episode is done, it is cleansing and exhausting. It is just like an entire, talk about soul workout that I don't know. I feel rebirth from that almost like, okay, just got through every emotion that needed to exist right now in a sort of almost psychopathic way. Like, how would I say? I'm in my losing it kind of mode and I'm crying and laughing and then sort of loses its charge and I can see clearly after that. You guys can relate to that? Please tell me I'm not the only one that happens to.
I can surely relate, but also in the other way, you have like happy emotion. Like, for instance, when you have a lot of fun with your partner, like when you're in love, you want to bite the other one. This kind of mechanism, like the brain goes crazy. It's like, I'm feeling too much love towards that person. I should bite it to balance it. Like the same with laughing after crying.
The real thing that sometimes we get so overwhelmed by something being so cute, which is why sometimes you'll hear people say, "Oh, look at that baby," or "Look at that puppy. It's so cute. I want to eat it." Like psychopathic for us to think, "Oh, I want to eat that baby," but it's just the overwhelm of the amazing feeling of joy and happiness that we get over looking at something so damn cute that we love so much that we want to hurt it. Like, it's like I just want to squeeze it to death. Like, what is that?
And you can see like the mammal thing, you can see like behaving like that. Or babies, when you see like they bite the butt of their partner when they cross by, like, ooh, just like nicely you give a bite like that.
And who doesn't want to give a little bite to a nice peachy butt? It's got to be said.
Exactly. And now if we were any more serious with ourselves, we would all be analyzing like, my God, I can't believe you said you wanted to bite that. There's something wrong with you. No, there isn't. I'm just experiencing a huge overwhelm of this amazing feeling of emotion that the way I have to handle it. It's like that feeling, right? I totally get that. That's funny.
Well, on that note, there is a novel who actually addresses that. I don't know if you remember it. It's probably written back in the 90s, a German writer called Patrick Süskind, The Perfume. And it's somebody who gets into making perfumes and he manages to make the perfect perfume, which brings up pure love in every person. So you put it on and people poorly love you. But the problem is it's so perfect that when he puts it on, people want to eat him. Actually take chunks out of the guy. Literally, that's the novel. It's a really good novel, actually, by the way. It goes quite deep. It sounds weird, but it's a really good book.
I totally get it about it. If you walk by somebody that smells good, like the immediate reaction is, "Oh my God, you smell delicious." Like, just like it smells good enough to like eat. Yeah, totally understand that feeling. I get that. I've never actually taken a chunk out of anybody. I just want it for the record. I have never actually really taken a chunk out of anyone.
And I was just going to say, if anybody is at all triggered by being bitten, get over yourself or reach out to us because our details will be in the description. Brett, you ever wanted to take a bite out of somebody?
Not really.
Oh, don't lie.
I don't know if this is the conversation.
Can we talk a minute about, Brett brought something up about giggling and laughing, and I know where he's bringing that up, but I don't want to speak for him, but I think it's an interesting topic to talk about as far as somebody not being willing to giggle because they think that they have matured past that point, right? Like that giggling is being like only people who haven't matured do. Do we have any thoughts about this? Because I don't think that is nearly the same thing at all. I think you could be quite mature and still know how to have a good giggle over something just purely because of the lightness of life.
Yeah. If I go out and I see somebody having fun and say they're shaking their ass or doing whatever they're doing, right? I might join in and then I'll giggle at myself doing whatever it is. And somebody commented like, I don't giggle. Like the difference, you see, how old are you? And I was like, really? I hope I never lose the ability to giggle at myself by allowing myself to do silly things just so I can giggle. And maybe somebody else might, I don't know, join in, do something, and then we can have a laugh. I don't know. Isn't life supposed to be kind of fun? I'm all about it, just having fun and having a good time and scaring the crap out of people like Erika. That's always fun, right? What do you think about that? Erika loves scary movies. So I got a good giggle and it's scaring the crap out of Erica. No
No, I
good, huh?
just Googled it because I genuinely don't know the difference. I'm not sure I agree with this. There's two different versions here. One is that they only differ in terms of intensity, duration, and pitch. I can kind of behind that. There's another one that says that giggling is immature and a childish way of expressing nervousness or embarrassment. I don't think I get behind that second one at all.
It's two different types of giggling, isn't it? It's the same word for completely different things. A friend of mine was at the funeral the other day, and the son of the friend, which, standing there, it's the funeral of his granddad, and he kept giggling. I think that's what they're talking about. It was just not appropriate for the situation. It was very immature, exactly what I just described. But that's a different giggling than what Brad talked about, because if I'm silly, I giggle at myself. This is a completely different situation. So I think it's down to context. Having fun is good, and being able to laugh or giggle at yourself is healthy because it means we don't take ourselves too serious. And that, for me, shows a maturity of being able to think about myself, my actions, and I can acknowledge my actions. And if they're silly, and it's good to have silly moments. So that's very different. So I think it's down to context, really.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I can remember being at probably the first of my peer group's funerals. I would have only been 17 or 18, maybe. He was possibly 2 years older than me. And I shared this with my son the other day. A little group of friends were all giggling, but it was an uncomfortable reaction to the immediacy of a friend taking their life. And whilst if I had the opportunity, I would rather that we hadn't been like that. But from my perspective now, I can completely understand why we were the way we were. I expect we all have heard or maybe even experienced ourselves, particularly school era. You get called to go and see the headmaster or the teacher, and it's like, why are you laughing? Why that? No, nothing more 100% guaranteed to get an authority type figure to be even crosser with you than you laughing at their annoyance with you. I think sometimes they don't even realize how silly they seem. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Kathy.
It's contagious too, because if there's a group of you, right, and one person cannot control themselves, and you're just, it permeates through. And I think we've all been in inappropriate times like that doesn't call for a giggle to be happening, but in doubt, it happens. And the harder you try to stop it, the worse it is. The worse it gets, because it's like trying not to laugh, and then noises start coming out. Like, it just needs to come out. That energy, it's just energy, right? It's energy of some type that needs to be expressed in some way. And it just happens to be laughter at the time.
We
That is,
in the UK, it's very well sort of that the emergency services have a very dark sort of humour. And crewmate and I once went to break a death message to somebody, and solemn. There's no question in my mind about the solemnity of it and how sacred a duty this is. So we go up to the door, and I give a proper policeman's knock at the door, and my crewmate looks at me and goes, "Have a care, you'll wake the dead." And we both completely lost it. And because you can't be laughing on the doorstep when you break, we shot round the alley, and we're both in this alley trying to squeeze the laugh, keep the laughter in, and we hear the door open, and who's there? Real gruff, sort of like, and we're both like, oh God, biting our hands, trying not to laugh, and the door shuts. I'm like, got it, we're all right. We're like, and we stood in this alley for a good 5 minutes. Every time I was like, right, we're going, no, and we'd be off again. So we eventually walked back round the corner, and we've got our game faces on, and I've literally only just gone to knock on the door, and it springs open. The guy had obviously stood there waiting to see if someone, and so he's right there. And the shock of that, I could feel like this little bubble of laughter wanting to come up. And he was like suspicious. Policeman stood there in uniform, which that's a bad sign. And he's like, "Were you here a minute ago? And what are we going to say?" And there's just this little squeaky no comes from behind me, and I know that my crewmate has lost it again completely and has to go. He said, I just need to go and get some information from the car, and he walks off and leaves me on the doorstep with this bloke. It was not the best death message I've ever delivered. I can share that with you.
On top of the fact that you ring and ran, like you didn't even talk about and ran. Not good.
I didn't run until after the provocation from my crewmate. If you're listening, PC Grays Mark, this is on you.
I think the point being, we're all humans and it happens. And it's not necessarily a sign of disrespect or immaturity. It's just an emotional human reaction that's happening that you do the best to try to tame. But the harder you try to tame it, the worse it gets. Is that a metaphor for something else? I feel like that's a metaphor for something. I don't know. Somebody else can figure that out. I just came up with that. I have no idea, but
an emotional release at times as well, right? Your example, Alec, this is something we don't like to do, like had to do it because it was your duty, but it's something you don't like to do, and there is an emotional tension to it. How do I deliver that? What's going to happen? And then a little thing like this just can trigger that release of all the emotions who are there. That's why it happens. It is human.
Yeah, I think that the experience you shared like shows what Gabby said earlier about the fact that emotions are emotions. There is no like emotion and bad emotions. And when you're talking about this, when you have like the energy, you were in a situation where you should supposed to feel like bad emotions, labeled as, but as you see, like just an energy that's emerged, then we do our best to cope with it, whether we label it as bad or good, but it's just an energy that's popping in ourselves and we have to deal with.
So what's your takeaways from this conversation?
I think for me, it's a little bit like an earlier conversation we spoke about where it is an emotion. It's like we've said, it's also a release of emotion. It's really complicated, actually. Laughter is a very complex thing, as we've come to see here. But again, it's not something that you can judge. People will find something funny, others will not. And I think you've all helped me come to terms with a couple of examples where I might have wished my humour didn't express its way, or rather the emotion that seemed to be humour had been expressed in a different way.
I'm gonna take away the quote you shared earlier, I like about like if you're not able to laugh at yourself, that's probably because you lack self-awareness. I like this one.
I love humor. I think humor is a tool, just like any other tool that we might have in our toolkit. It's knowing when to rely on it, knowing when to use it. I think we would all be served well if we found something as small or as big as it can be to laugh about in every single day, whether it's at yourself or it's something you find funny in the day. It's just a little dose of medicine that can come to us naturally.
Yeah, I think for me it's the realization that, older we get, or in a certain time in our life, we seem sometimes to forget to laugh or to seek even light situations where we can just be even silly. You have no problem to do that when we're younger, but then there comes a day where, now we're mature adults, so we have to be all, we forget how healthy laughing is and how it can fuse situations, how it can make life a little bit more, life sometimes a little bit more in perspective rather than take it too serious and forget about all the good things. So maybe laughter helps us as well, also a little bit with gratitude. I think that's my takeaway.
Brett, would you like to see us out?
I think my takeaway is, since it's not April 1st, coming up with a good April Fool's joke and just remember to laugh. Like that's big takeaway for me is just holding on to when things are really bad. Where can I find the opportunity to laugh when things are really not in the right place in my head or situation going on? Where can I take that moment to laugh and be like, yeah, everything's gonna be okay. Like just rem- and giggle a little bit. That kind of key for me. Yeah, because I'm too serious. So yeah, that'd be something there for me.
Thanks, everyone, and thank you all for listening. As ever, contact details are in the description below, and we will see you again soon for another episode of Wi-Fi Chats. Take care. Remember to laugh.